Now, Stella, you're launching a campaign to get more and more people to eat together as a family, but at the moment, less and less people are actually eating together. What are the consequences of this?
There's an epidemic going on. One of the things is childhood obesity, which we really want to avoid, and definitely children don't know how to have table manners. They have no etiquette. They don't know how to use a knife and fork, and they're having serious problems with interaction with other people, social interaction. People are not sitting down anymore because we're living in a very fast-paced society, and they're not realising that it needs to be a priority. So mealtimes are being forgotten. We're picking up pizza and fast food. There's other foods out there, convenience foods, that we could be using, but we're using the excuse that we're so busy. We can't be so busy that we don't check in with each other around a family meal.
Now, these are quite significant claims regarding depression, anxiety, obesity. Why is this actually happening?
Well, let's look at the obesity one, okay? So you're sitting in front of the TV and you're eating. 75% of families in the UK are owning up to that. So you're eating and you're not interacting, you're just filling yourself. So you're not actually aware of the food you're eating or how full you are. So that can lead to obesity. The social interaction plays a huge part in the fact that, kids are away playing their video games, watching TV, they're on the computer. They're not actually really interacting even with their family, let alone with their friends.
So why would a child that sits down at mealtimes actually do better at school?
A child that's actually sitting down to a meal will do better in school because, for one, they're actually sitting down for a certain amount of time. The amount of teachers that say to you these days, a child can't even sit on their seat for more than a few minutes, that to me would be a big indicator.
Could you actually compensate for having less time at the dinner table by having more quality time away from the home?
I don't believe that just because you're spending quality time outside of the home, unless it's sitting down together in a restaurant having a meal, are you compensating for what you're not doing at home. I really do believe we should be sitting down as families in a home environment before we subject the rest of the world to some inappropriate behaviours.
So how do you actually persuade the children to sit down with mum and dad and move away from the television?
I persuade people to turn off the TV by actually physically turning it off. It's not rocket science, it's not that hard. And I start introducing children to food and meal times at a very young age, even with, babies, toddlers in a high chair. It really is about, the analogy is like training a puppy dog. It might not be a very nice one, but it is. You start young and you be consistent.
What about a compromise where you actually all sit down eating in front of the television?
I don't want people sitting down in front of the TV having their dinner. I'd be a hypocrite if I said I didn't want people sitting down watching TV. I'm a TV nanny, but I want to see people sitting down at a table without any distractions. It's about, involving yourself in each other and getting to know each other.
For some families, of course, the very idea of all coming together and sitting round the table is an absolute nightmare. There'll be arguments, there'll be bickering. How do you get over this?
People complain that they sit down and have bickering across the table. It doesn't matter where you are, you have to have rules. So when you sit down, there are going to be certain rules at the table, but you have to implement it and follow through. So if you're going to say to your kids, if you continue to do this, you're going to go in time out or you're going to remove a privilege, that's what you have to do.
Do the same rules apply to single-parent families when it comes to eating together?
I've seen some single-parent families do a fantastic job. It doesn't matter whether you're raising your child by yourself or if you have an extended family that's helping you, the rules still apply. Everybody should be sitting down to have a meal together.
You've, of course, spent much of your professional career nannying across the Atlantic in the States. Are the attitudes towards sitting down at mealtimes much different over there than they are over here in the UK?
One of the things that I notice that is vastly different over there is the way that people aren't sitting down to combat the problem. Here in the UK, you're already getting on board. People are already talking about combating the problem within the school system. I'm really excited with the Aunt Bessie's campaign because I really think this is about prevention rather than cure. The states are in the position right now where they're having to cure the epidemic that they've got. At least you guys here are challenging it already.
What about child rearing in general? Is it much different over there than it is here?
The biggest difference in parenting in the US to parenting in the UK is that in the US, parents really want to be their child's best friend. You know, I've had people say to me, I have a 5-year-old and she's my best friend, and I'm supposed to appreciate that, which I don't, because my best friend is the same age as me. She's 41. I think she'd have a really hard time if I started to discipline her. You can't be somebody's best friend and really effectively discipline, so that's something fundamental.
So, do you think we'll ever see a return to the good old-fashioned days of discipline when children were seen and not heard?
I don't want to see a return to the olden days where we spanked our children and we yelled and screamed at our children. What I want to see is we've removed those but replaced them with something else that's effective, whether it be time out or the removal of a privilege, but discipline. You have to follow through. You have to be an effective parent.
Finally then, for all the parents out there watching, they're going to want to know how to keep their kids under control. 5 top tips for controlling your child's behaviour.
Okay, the first thing you need to do as parents when it comes to controlling your children's behaviour is parents have to define their role as parents. So that comes back to the fact that you can't be your child's best friend. The other thing that you need to do is work effectively as a team. So if you have, 2 parents in the home, you have to be on the same page. You can't undermine each other in front of your children. Because as we know, kids are very clever and they buy into that very quickly and they play mom and dad off against each other. The other thing you have to bear in mind is respect is a two-way street. So to get respect, you've got to give it. If you're screaming at your kids from the kitchen to the living room instead of going to talk to them, then that's disrespectful and you don't want that. Actions definitely have consequences. As an example, as an adult, if I drink and drive, I'm going to use my driver's licence. It's simple. You have to bring the fundamentals into parenting. And the biggest one would be consistent. What you start, you have to finish.
Stella Reid, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.